everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl, and the off-season cycle, I'm sure, is about to begin. 30 teams no longer in the playoffs. You know, a couple of years ago, that was a whole league. So yes, congratulations to the Avalanche on Lightning making it to the final. But, you know, I feel like wheels are going to start to turn. We're under 3 weeks, or just about 3 weeks, of the NHL Draft, where the Coyotes are going to have a big couple of days there with 7 picks in the first 2 rounds. Let's talk about the third overall pick that the Coyotes got from the lottery. They did finish second last in the league, but, you know, New Jersey won the lottery and bumped the Coyotes down to third overall. So what type of player are we going to get? Obviously, the glaring name missing from here is Shane Wright. Honestly, I think Wright's gone before the Coyotes even pick, so I don't want to waste energy on Wright. We should focus on some of these other players because, you know, so many people have their different lists and draft lists. I saw someone with Logan Cooley as number 1 overall. These guys make a living on writing and journalism and being a professional hockey writer, but you're not going to get people to your website if you just make the safe claim that, yeah, Wright is number 1. You know, no one talks about Shane Wright. You know, the past month, no one likes to talk about him. They all like to talk about Slavkovsky and Cooley and surprises in the draft or dynamic players. But Shane Wright is the safe pick. He's guaranteed to be, you know, either a number 1 or number 2 centerman in the league. Whereas these guys, maybe some little risk, but with Wright, there's going to be no risk. He's going to be a great NHL player, which is why I think he goes number 1. Maybe he goes number 2. I doubt it. But let's concentrate on this. I strongly believe the Coyotes will get either one of these 2. These are going to be the reaches for the Coyotes. You know, as just someone who comments on hockey, you don't really know the mind of your NHL GM. I'll get into defensemen later. I hope we do not draft a defenseman because it could mean that something else is happening behind the scenes. And obviously I'll talk about that. So I start with Slavkovsky. I'm going to probably mispronounce maybe this name. Other names I think I'll get right. He's Slovakian, 6'4", 218 pounds, pure Bill Armstrong player. The only problem is that he's a winger. He's not a centerman. The Coyotes' center depth is barren. They just have Barrett Hayden as their center depth. They need with these 7 picks in the top 45, I assume and I hope that Bill Armstrong concentrates on centermen. You know, why not just draft 3 or 4 centermen? And maybe if they all hit, there you go. Your center depth is solved in just 1 draft. But he got a huge body. He's making a lot of waves and news recently because he's pretty much the only guy who's playing hockey recently. He played in the Olympics, where the NHL didn't join, and he got MVP of the Olympics, like MVP of the whole Olympics. Not just Team Slovakia. He had 7 goals in 7 games, no assists, which, you know, whenever I see highlights of him, it's always like an end-to-end, you know, high skill, deking around players. Like, obviously I don't watch prospect hockey, so I'm just commenting on what other people say. That's one of my glaring problems with being, you know, I guess a Coyotes commentator is it's so hard to say who the Coyotes are going to get because I'm just commenting off already published information that I'm just taking off the internet. But to me, whenever I see Slavkovsky highlights or blurbs about him, he seems to me like he's a bit of a hog. Obviously, I don't know the guy, so that's just my perception of him. But yeah, his puck skill's good. His shot is great. He's got good top-end speed. The green is above NHL average. The red isn't bad. It's just NHL average and in some instances below NHL average. So it's not to say Slavkovsky has terrible IQ, terrible skating, and terrible compete level. It's just at NHL average. So that's what he's really not known for. A lot of people claim his skating needs some work, sort of like Dylan Strome in that draft where people were knocking Strome for his skating. But they say that Slavkovsky doesn't have clean strides to accelerate. Once he gets going, he's hard to stop, which is why he has good top-end speed. But to get going, that acceleration maybe is a bit rough. So that's something to note. His IQ and his compete level, even though he has a big frame and a big body, he does not use it at all. That's why his comparison is Rick Nash. Rick Nash was a power forward, but only for his size. He wasn't like Ovechkin or McKinnon, who throws their bodies around but are also highly skilled players. He won't run over guys. He's just a big body with some good skill and make some flashy plays. That being said, if his skill and talent continues to increase after he gets drafted, he could be better than Wright in terms of skill and talent, whereas Shane Wright's more of a two-way guy, dependable, responsible NHL centerman, like a Bergeron type guy, whereas Slafkovsky could be the most skilled guy out of this top 5 or the whole draft, if you will. Then we move on to Cooley, who I want the Coyotes to draft because he is a centerman. The only knock about him and that he doesn't really fall into Bill Armstrong's type of guy is that he's 5'10". If he was just over 6 feet, this would be a perfect scenario for the Coyotes. But, he's not a big, strong centerman that the Coyotes want and need. But he is a centerman. He is claimed as one of the most dynamic players in the draft. Some people have him number 1, like I aforementioned. Some guy on the Daily Faceoff had him at number 1. But a lot of people have him at 2 or 3. Like, he's never number 1 except for that one example. If you look across the board, he averages about 2nd rank, 3rd rank. So I think, with Slafkovsky playing against men in the Olympics and the World Championship that just concluded, people have seen him much more recently and a lot of them and playing that competition with NHL players, whereas Cooley, not at the Olympics, not at the World Championships, I believe, hasn't played against NHL competition or men yet. He's still a developing prospect who's committed to college hockey next season. So, which is also why I like Cooley, because I think Slafkovsky wants to play in the NHL right now. So that doesn't match up with the Coyotes' trajectory. They don't want to be too good next year. And I think that fits in well with the New Jersey Devils. They want an impact player right away. They don't want to develop a player like Cooley and wait on him. So I think the Devils, they got Jack Hughes and Heeshear and Mercer as their center depth. They need a big winger, which is why I think New Jersey will be attracted to Slafkovsky. And then Cooley falls at number 3. That's implying that Wright goes to Montreal. So I like Cooley. Everything he does is above NHL level. His skating, his puck skill, his IQ, his compete, and his shot. Even though he's a small guy, he competes hard. He plays hard. He's a dynamic player, like I said. He makes highly skilled plays at top speed. Just, he's undersized, and I know that's like an old school way of thinking, but, it's true. To be a competing team in the NHL, you need big bodies. Looking at his comparables, you got Braden Point, Mitch Marner, and Clayton Keller. Cooley actually said he models his game after Clayton Keller. So, that's kind of a dream come true, to watch and follow a guy and learn his mannerisms and style of hockey, and then to be drafted by that player's team and even play on his line, because Keller is not a centerman. So maybe in the future you see a Cooley and Keller line, which would be pretty crazy and really remarkable for Cooley, who looked up to a player and now he's playing on his line in the NHL. He drives play at 5-on-5, and he's also dangerous on the power play. And he's got some good defensive centerman qualities to him. A lot of people say the United States Development League really develops defensively responsible players, as well as cultivating their high-end offensive talent. Like I said, he's committed to college hockey next season, so that gives the Coyotes some time to develop him, just like Clayton Keller. When Keller was drafted, he went back to, I think it was Boston College for a year before making the jump to the NHL. And he's been the leading player in the United States Development League in terms of his age group. So obviously there's different age groups in that league, but in his class, he's the top player in his age group. So, there's some credence that he's very good. He could be a steal at the draft. This is the player I want, and it would be a victory for the Coyotes if they do get Cooley. just bolster that center depth. Sure, he's small, but he's very skilled. He competes hard, which Bill Armstrong really needs and wants. He wants players to come play for Arizona and compete hard and make the desert a hard place to play in. So these two, 90% chance the Coyotes will draft one of them. I'd rather Cooley than Slafkovsky, but this could be a good pick as well if the New Jersey Devils decide to draft Cooley. These are a bit of the stretches. Sometimes, John Chaika used to make those stretch picks or reach picks quite often. But, for me, I don't know what Bill Armstrong is planning. If he is planning to trade Jacob Chychrun, then that leaves a massive hole on the defensive side. We don't have too many good defensive prospects. To me, it's Moser and Soderstrom. And Soderstrom's taking a really long time. Hopefully, Soderstrom gets a permanent spot on the Coyotes roster in the upcoming season. Gostisbehere's in his last year of his contract with the Coyotes. I don't know if he'll sign with the Coyotes. I would want the Coyotes to trade him because his value is really high. We got him for free and the 36th overall pick just to take on Gostisbehere, which was a great trade. So I don't know what's in Bill Armstrong's mind. If he knows he's trading Chychrun, then he could pick up one of these two defensive prospects who are touted to be really good and the best defenseman in the first round, and then use those picks he got from Chychrun to pick more centermen in next year's draft and use these other picks to draft other centermen that he likes, sort of like, Matthew Savoie. I was going to put him on the board because he's a centerman with an incredible shot, but it was Savoie and Jiricek, probably mispronouncing that, for the last spot for me. So, if Bill Armstrong knows he's trading Chychrun, I hope he doesn't, because you can build around Chychrun in your defensive, crop of defensive players. But if he does trade Chychrun, there are some good defensemen here. You got Nemec, 6 feet, 190 pounds. He's great IQ, great compete level. His skating and puck skill could use some work. His comparables are Mackenzie Weegar and Roman Josi. He's touted as the responsible D-man of the draft. He's trusted. He's responsible. He makes great plays defensively. He's got a great pass out of the zone. So he's more of that responsible D-man, sort of like Moser. I see Moser as a trusted D-man already. I'm very calm when he's on the ice. And even when he got injured, Moser did, you can tell that his presence was felt in the Coyotes lineup. But yeah, he makes plays under pressure. He's not like physically imposing, and he's trusted and responsible. So he's not a physical defenseman. He just uses his high IQ to be in the right spots and break up plays. Whereas we'll just jump to him. Jiricek, 6'3", 189 pounds. So obviously a much bigger frame than Nemec. His shot and compete level is really high. He's got a shot that people say is a bomb and is like comparable to Shea Weber. And he's got a big right-handed shot D-man. He is a big right-handed shot D-man, and right-handed D-men are very attractive to teams. A lot of teams always want a right-handed D-man for that power play. He's a threat on the power play. His skating IQ and puck skill could use some work with that huge frame. People say that he is a bit awkward in his skating. So that's where Nemec is a bit better. Could move around the ice a bit smoother and silkier as opposed to a big frame like Jiricek. So if the Coyotes are going to go for a defenseman, it could be one of these two. And they might skip over Cooley. If Bill Armstrong's like he's too small, even though I think it's a mistake to skip over Cooley. But if Bill Armstrong truly believes that he could get a good centerman over here, and go for a great defenseman here, that's something that could happen. These guys are smart. They have plans. They've went over this draft numerous times. And something could change at the draft table. Maybe New Jersey trades their pick to someone. Maybe they trade it to the Coyotes in a pipe dream. That's obviously never going to happen. But, let's say New Jersey's like, we just want to make the playoffs. We don't want to develop a player. We need an impact player right away. They go to the Coyotes, be like, hey, give us Chychrun and maybe 2 of these other first-round picks, and you got a deal. That could happen. 1% chance of that happening, but things happen. GMs are desperate sometimes, And I don't trust the New Jersey Devils GM. I trust Bill Armstrong more, obviously with bias, but I think Armstrong has been around the league for a very long time. He created a whole new scouting and drafting department with the Coyotes, so I trust them to make the right decisions. Finally, we have Gauthier, another centerman, raised in Arizona, which is why I have him here. Not born in Arizona. I thought with the name Cutter Gauthier, it's an American name, but I believe he was born in Sweden. But yeah, 6'3", 189 pounds. He has a great shot and great compete level. His shot is actually labeled as high end. It's not, above NHL average like these, but it's actually above that. So apparently he's got a crazy shot. He could pick corners from a distance. His size and speed just overwhelms the opposition and causes turnovers. His IQ, puck skill, and skating could use some work. But, maybe a skating it's NHL average. It's not bad. It's just NHL average. But, yeah, his shot's high end. He's good on both special teams, the power play and the PK. He played on Cooley's wing in the U.S. Developmental League. So there's some, chemistry between them two. I'm not saying the Coyotes are going to get both of them. But, if the Coyotes are always scouting Cooley, they're also scouting Gauthier at the same time, which is why I have him on the board, because they knew Cooley was going to be a top 3, top 5 pick. And the Coyotes knew from a very long time ago they were going to pick top 5. So if they sent scouts to watch Cooley, they're also watching Gauthier. Big frame, centerman, two-way, PK and PP, reminiscent of JT Miller on the Canucks and Chris Kreider, who's on the Rangers. So this is like a Bill Armstrong type player. Centerman, big, great shot, responsible on the back end. So, maybe the Coyotes are like, hey, we want Gauthier. We have so many other picks that we could use to supplement the player we want. So if they really want a big centerman who has a great shot and all this and is imposing physically, they could just say, hey, you know what? Let's get the player we want with our first pick and then make the smart picks with these other picks they have. So they're picking 27th with the Carolina pick. Wherever Colorado finishes, if the Avalanche win the Cup, they'll pick 32nd. If the Avalanche lose, they'll pick 31st. If the Avalanche win the Cup, the Coyotes get an extra third-round pick, I believe in 2024. So I guess we're all Avalanche fans right now. And Darcy Kemper needs to play one more game. Because Kemper was injured, and if this Stanley Cup final goes to 7 games, then the condition on that pick is that Kemper needs to play half the playoff games. So in a scenario where the Avalanche win the Cup, it goes to 7 games, Kemper didn't play in any games, the Coyotes don't get that third-round pick, but all Kemper has to do is play one game, and they win the Cup, and it's guaranteed they'll get a third-round pick. Their 34th pick is their own Coyotes second-round pick that they held on to. 36 is Philadelphia in the Gostisbehere trade. 43 is San Jose's pick from the Aiden Hill trade. And 45 is the Islanders pick from the Andrew Ladd trade. So that's 7 players in the top 45. They had one other pick, which was Vancouver's, but they used it to acquire Jack McBain in Minnesota. I believe it was Jake McBain, might have been Nathan Smith, but I'm pretty sure it was McBain for that Vancouver second-round pick. So yeah, it's going to be a great draft for the Coyotes. The first 2 days, rounds 1 and 2, are going to be really important. It might kick off the future of the Coyotes, even though it's sort of kicked off with Dylan Guenther. So hopefully Bill Armstrong acquires a centerman that complements Guenther's play style. And even though if he doesn't, it should be a great draft for the Coyotes, and just keep rolling with that positivity ever since the Tempe City Council approval of the new arena. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.